name is Paige Rice and I attend Columbus North High School and I am a junior. Taxidermy is the general term referring to a preservation of an animal that has since passed on. I have always enjoyed taxidermy from the time I was a kid. I would see like mounted deer and turkeys and fish in relatives' home, and that always interested me. And then when I became, old enough to be on social media, I began seeing a lot of taxidermy-based artwork there as well, and that drew me in. I really started actively about 2 years ago. The process of doing taxidermy varies based on what kind of taxidermy you're doing. If you're doing a mount like you would see with a deer, you're gonna have to have a form and then skin the animal, tan the animal's fur and set it on that form and use pins to make it stay in the place. If you're just pinning an insect, you have to hydrate that insect, get your board, and then you'll use special paper and glass to spread those wings. If you're doing a wet specimen, you'll just make slight injections and incisions into the major muscles with a chemical and then put it into a jar. And there's a million different methods that are used in taxidermy. So like I said, it just really depends on what kind of taxidermy you're doing. If you're interested in this topic, firstly, seek out what kind of taxidermy you prefer, if that's like diorama displays or preservation for science, because there's a lot of wide variety. So find your online community and what interests you, and then continue researching it more. Be sure to look at ethics with animals and stuff, because we have species that are less common and endangered and such. There's a lot of great online resources I've used. I've also went to the library and stuff. You can find resources there to educate yourself, looking at artwork, asking people in the community have experience with taxidermy. When I do my taxidermy, I personally prefer to do insect taxidermy or wet specimens. I like the look of wet specimens a lot, which, if you don't know, that is when you take an animal specimen and preserve it in a jar. I like the way they look visually, and bug taxidermy gives you so many opportunities to be flexible and create art. When I'm older, I will not specifically go into a career in taxidermy, but I plan on going into conservation, which is a large part of why we do taxidermy. So in my conservation-related job, most likely I will be using taxidermy there, and I'm sure I'll continue it at home as a hobby. My least favorite part about taxidermy has to be the little gory stuff, like getting the guts out, or in the case of wet specimens, injecting the animal. It's not pleasing and it does not smell good, but you love the end product, and I think that flows into my favorite part. I really love seeing the end product of my work and other people's work. Taxidermy is really good for the scientific community, as if you are to bury a bone or clean it with beetles, a skeleton of a crocodile per se, you'll be able to assemble that and be able to examine the anatomy of that animal. As well as we progress as a society, animals are going to evolve and change, and if we have animals that are preserved, we can see how they've changed over time. I am big on ethics with taxidermy, so the majority of my animals are sourced from places such as pet stores who have lost animals, pets that might have passed away, which I also do in like a memoriam for myself, creatures I may find passed away in the woods as well. One thing I think people should know about taxidermy is you think about it and you're like, gross, dead animals, but you have to consider that taxidermy is a way of giving these animals new life. It's like if an animal dies, it won't have a gravestone like a human, but if you preserve it, it can be used to help humans, and that animal will be recognized and used for generations on.